Thank you so much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's always good to be back in San Gabriel. I was raised in Pasadena, and so I often used to be in San Gabriel when I was in college. So it's a pleasure to be here. Listen, today I want to talk to you about water supply, who Metropolitan is, and we have a major drought, and we are very fortunate that we have been able to work collectively here in Southern California, which is evident of the turnout here and how you work collectively as a team. And in Southern California, the Metropolitan Water District and its member agencies have been able to work collectively to build a lot of storage. And this is the primary reason why you see a lot of people in the north and the Central Valley having to go to mandatory water restriction, and you're not. We've been very fortunate, and here in the San Gabriel Valley, you're really blessed with one of the best aquifers in Southern California. So let me go into detail and talk to you about a project that is going to happen. We hope it's going to happen, which is going to bring back our water supply to Southern California. This is the Metropolitan Water District, and you're about right here. This is San Bernardino County line. This is Three Valleys. This is Upper District. You're about right here. You're in Upper District. Metropolitan is made up of 26 member agencies. We cover all 6 counties. 19 million residents that are counted within that service area. It's 5,200 square miles. This is a $1 trillion economy. $1 trillion. Now, that makes up about 35 to 40% of the state of California gross domestic product. Critical, because if the state of California is not the economic engine that it is, the southwestern United States is not the economic engine that it is in the United States. We account for about, I would say, 6% of the national GDP. We're major. Okay, so we supply water to everybody in this area, but not 100% of their water to all of them. Because a lot of these people, a lot of these entities where you're at, first started off and joined Metropolitan because Metropolitan was going to provide them with supplemental, which means I have enough water, but if I don't have enough water next year, can I get it from you? And that's how it started. That's how Metropolitan started 80 years ago. But unfortunately, today, some of the people or the entities or agencies or cities that are within this are 100% dependent on Met because their wells have gone dry. Now, before I move on to the next slide, let me point out that all of this area, if it did not get imported water that comes from the Colorado River or from the State Water Project, it wouldn't exist. There's only enough water in the local region for 1/3 of the population. So if we don't have imported water, we're in deep trouble here. Okay? And this is where our water comes from. It comes from the Colorado River aqueduct. It comes from the state. The city of Los Angeles gets it from this aqueduct. And locally, we have, like I said, local water supplies. Metropolitan Water District is the major wholesaler. You're never going to get a bill from me. You're going to get a bill from your direct water company, but we will send a bill to them. Okay? You'll only see the Metropolitan Water District on your tax bill. Right now, our makeup of water supply, 25% is the Colorado River, 30% is the State Water Project, and 45% is local supply. Groundwater and recycled water are very much dependent on imported water because they made up a part of it. I'm going to focus on this really quick, okay? That's the State Water Project. The water comes from Sacramento. That water supply has been going down every year. This bar shows the amount of water we get from the Sacramento region every year, and every year it's less, and less. This graph over here doesn't show 2014, this year. If I had 2014 on this, it would be red like that, and it would be between this line and this line. It would be right there. This year is the most historical year. We're only going to get 5% of what we expect to get from the State Water Project on an annual basis. This is what we should get. And this year, we're going to get this. We've lost, on average, 40% of our water supply from the State Water Project in the last 10 years, every year. We can't continue like that, and we don't know what's going to happen down the road. And why is the water supply going down? because there's some fish in the Sacramento Delta. This is the Sacramento Delta. There's some fish in the Sacramento Delta whose population count has been going down. Look at that. Biologists count them, and then they report it. In the last couple of years, they haven't been reporting any of them. And the sea level has been rising, and this area, the Sacramento Delta, if you've been to it, is made up of a lot of islands, and they use them for farming. 100 years ago, this is what the area looked like, but then the farmers started to farm it every year, and little by little, because this soil is very rich, and it's very windy up here, as the tractor goes over the land, the soil is tilled, turned around, and the wind gets it. And little by little, there's less soil for farming. And so the islands are going down while the sea level is high on the top. You see this? This is called a levee. When there was a big storm in New Orleans called Katrina, you heard about people talking about levees. Well, same concept. It holds back the water, and the people live on this side. The water is above sea level. The levees in Katrina had cement and rebar. Rebar is an engineering word for steel. These levees don't have that. These levees are all soil. These levees have, all these levees have in there are gophers. They don't have any cement, they don't have any, they have gophers. And the gophers have a bunch of holes. Now, when these levees fail, we have major problems, and I'll tell you why there's major. Because the levee in itself has a capillary effect. When I was in college and I had to go to Cal Poly from Pasadena, I didn't have enough gas for my car, a Pinto. So I had a hose, and I would ask my father, Dad, can I get gas out of your car to go to school? And he said, yeah. So I would stick the hose on one side of my father's in the gas tank, and I would suck on it, right? And the gas would come out. And then I'd put it in my car. Well, when these levees fail, see these little islands? And the levees fail, let's go back to what the levees were. Right? These are the levees. When they break, this water flushes in, right? And when that water flushes in, the same effect that when I was taking gas out of my father's car, all this water out here that's in San Francisco Bay, that's heavy in salt, runs right in. And why is that a problem? Because over here are the pumps that I pump water out of to bring down to you to drink. I can't treat water with salt. I can't. It has a byproduct. When I treat water, salty water, there's something called bromide. That's a byproduct, and that's a cancer-causing carcinogen. We can't have that. So what we have to do is blend water. So we can't have water with high concentration of salt. Now, we have a problem. We're losing our water supply. What do? We did an analysis along with the state, and they came up with a plan. And today I want to focus on this plan. It's called the Bay Delta Conservation Plan up here, and it's a pipeline. This is how the water is supposed to flow out into the ocean, right? But it doesn't flow that way because of the pumps. These pumps change the flow of this water when they're going out, and they go here. Why is that a problem? Because fish that are spawned up here, that begin up here and up here, when they make their way out to the ocean to mate and to live, they decide to come back. The fish would only lay their eggs back where they were born. So the fish that originated up here want to get back home when they want to lay their eggs. And when they try to come back up these rivers and we turn on these pumps, this water, the fish is smelling this water and trying to make his way up, just like this. The fish gets confused because this water ends up going here. So the fish come here and they die. Okay? And we recognize the Metropolitan Water District, along with the state water contractors, we're a member of something called the state water contractors that take water out of here. We recognize that our pumping is causing it. But there's a lot of other things that are happening here in the Sacramento Delta that are causing the fish to die. I'm going to give you an example of one, and we'll move on because we have limited time, right, Nancy? How much time I got left?
You still have a 20.
Okay. One of the examples that is causing a major problem in this region is the city of Sacramento. Here in Southern California, when you get water at your home and you use it, and the water goes out into the sewer, we collect that water. Los Angeles County Sanitation District collects that water at San Jose Creek over here in the 605 and the 60 freeway. And we treat that water. We clean it. We clean it to a tertiary level, 3 levels of cleaning. And we clean it to 3 levels before we put it back into the ocean, right? To Santa Monica Bay and the ocean along Huntington Beach and so forth. We clean it to a 3rd level, 3 levels. The city of Sacramento takes the water off the Sacramento River. Here's a city, takes the water off the Sacramento River, uses it, and then treats it like we treat it. But we treat our water to a 3 stage. They only treat their water to a 2nd stage. And before they dump it back into the Sacramento River, they put a lot of ammonia in it. Because even the 2nd stage that they treat isn't the same 2nd stage that we treat. And so when they put the water back into the river with ammonia, they kill the fish. All right? Now, the water that we treat to send to Santa Monica Bay for the fishes, we treat to a tertiary level. The water that I take out of the Sacramento Delta here for you to drink is treated to a secondary level from the city of Sacramento. It makes no sense, right? And one more final point. These islands, they're farmland, they're farmers. Now, when they take water out of these rivers to irrigate their fields because they're growing crops, they take it and they practice old-fashioned inundation. They flood it, right? They flood the fields. After they flood the fields, whatever water they don't need, they put it right back into the river. That's a problem, because when a farmer is growing a crop, he or she has to add herbicides and pesticides to kill weeds, to kill bugs, and it goes right back into the river, right? And that kills the fish, and that's hard to treat. When they take the water out of the river, remember I showed you the picture of the count, this count right here on the fish? When you see that low count? Well, the farmer takes the water out of the river. He takes it out of the river. Let's use this one as an example. He takes the water out of the river right here, and the biologist standing down here. Well, the farmer, when he took the water out of the river prior to 2009, he didn't have to worry about the fish that he takes. And so he would take fish out, free fertilizer for his field, and the biologist downstream is looking for the fish. And he can't find the fish, and when he doesn't see the fish, he picks up the phone and he calls the pumps and he says, turn off the pumps. I don't see any fish. You see, we were getting blamed for the farmer taking fish out of the river. Now, he could have taken fish, he could have not taken fish, but he had no processing to protect the fish. In 2009, there was a law that was passed, and it said, Sacramento, you have to clean your sewage water better. Farmers in the Sacramento Delta, you have to put screens to protect the fish so that when you take the water, you don't take fish. And you cannot flood your fields anymore. You have to use sprinklers and so forth. And they said, the people who live in Southern California, you need to help us come up with a plan to fix this problem. And you also have to conserve more water. And we did. We came up with a plan. It's called the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. And this is the plan that we want to present and we want to build. So the water normally flows like that. And one of the ideas that they were proposing is putting cement along this path so that the water can go directly to it. Environmentalists would never allow that, never. The other idea was a canal, open canal going around so that the water doesn't get mixed up here and the fish don't get confused, right? So there's closed canal and it comes right here to where our pumps. This would never happen. We tried that in 1982 called the Peripheral Canal. It would be a canal that's about 150 feet wide. And environmentalists will never allow that because you can see it. And the Sacramento Delta is a very beautiful area. And you don't want to have a big concrete structure, out in the horizon. It's a very beautiful location. Now, so we came up with another idea. Okay, what if we do open channel here and a tunnel here, an open channel? It didn't work. I didn't like the idea. So the final idea that we came up with And the Jerry Brown administration, and even the federal government, they like the idea. And we're moving forward on it. And we're in the Metropolitan Water District. Now, you know, sometimes it's not good to be very proud of yourself and very arrogant. You should always be humble. But let me be a little arrogant today. The Metropolitan Water District, we've been around for 80 years. We built Diamond Valley Lake. We did it right. I think we have 6 major treatment plants. And today our treatment plants are on ozone. I think when somebody does something right for many years, I think they have credibility. And we believe this is the right way to do it. And just like we built Diamond Valley Lake, a $1 billion project, and today we're not asking you to go to mandatory conservation, partly because of that. Primarily because of that, really. Our engineers are some of the best. The state of California comes to us and asks us for advice. And we're more than happy to work with them. Because we believe that the economy in Southern California, the state of California is dependent on it, but we're also dependent on Northern California. And we can't look at these things from being south versus north. This is one state, all the way from Redding in the north to Calexico by Mexico. We have one economy, we have one state, and we're going to get through this together. We're not going to create arguments, them versus us. And so we believe this project is the one that's going to solve this problem. And it's a tunnel, 30 miles long, from Sacramento down to where our pumps are at. 2 tunnels, 2 side by side, 30 feet in diameter, inner diameter, 150 feet below the ground. Why 2? Because you have to close one down for maintenance, you still have the other. Why 2? Because if you have seismic activity in the delta, you can fix one and keep one going. And we know for a fact, our scientists have done research in that there is a 50% chance within the next 20 years that there'll be a 6.5 earthquake in the Sacramento Delta. And if there's an earthquake in the Sacramento Delta, the levees that I showed you could fail. And they have failed. And if those levees fail and water rushes in, we can't treat that water. The only way I can get rid of salt water in the Sacramento Delta here is by flushing it with water in our reservoirs. We don't have any water today. We're very susceptible to earthquake right now. In order to flush the water the natural way with rain, it takes 2 years. If you have water in your reservoirs, you can flush the water by releasing water. So we just can't do that right now. This is the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. And like I said before, it's a tunnel from here to here. Here is where we take the water. The water has to be lifted up 220 feet to go into a canal. The canal I showed you. Here the water would be lifted 4 feet. And so when you lift water 4 feet as opposed to 220 feet, it's less of an impact on the flow and it's less of an influence on the fish, right? It just makes sense. It's an isolated facility. It means that nothing else is in it. It's just closed. And so this is the project that we want to do, and we believe that it's going to solve the problem. There it is, see, 30 miles long, 2 gravity flow, 30 miles, 9,000 CFS tunnels. How much does it cost? We did our study. We looked at stormwater, capturing stormwater in the region. We looked at groundwater recovery. We looked at recycled water and seawater desalination. And this is the cost of these 2 tunnels, about $1,000 an acre foot. The other ones are way above. Why is that? Because we don't have the infrastructure. A lot of people don't have the infrastructure for stormwater capture, for groundwater recovery, or recycled water. Besides recycle, you got to have pipelines in place, and it's very expensive to build these pipelines. We're not suggesting that we not do it. We have to do it, and we've done a lot. We recycle more water in Southern California than anywhere else. Anywhere else. In the 1990s here in Southern California, per capita, per person, we used about 255 gallons per day. Today, we're about 185. No one can question our efforts. We've really made a difference. And we know what we're talking about when we say that these things are options and we're going to continue to do them, but the best bang for your dollar is building these tunnels. Now, how much is it going to cost by itself? Let me go back to this one really quick. This means that it's going to cost $5 per house per month What's the average household? 4.3 people, okay? And that $5 is based upon the member agencies that get 50% water from Metropolitan. If a member agency gets 100% water from Metropolitan and it's an average household, it'll be $10. If the member agency gets 25%, it's $2.50. Okay? So on average, an average household, 4.3 people, who gets 50% water from Met, $5 per month. So it's $60 a year. I think it's a wise investment. Now, how much is it going to cost? The tunnel themselves, $14.5 billion. Habitat restoration, because we know that we got to get the fish back up to the numbers that they had to be. Why? Because even if we build a conveyance facility separate, we are still held by endangered species standards. And so if the fish don't come back, then there's still going to be the question as, why aren't they coming back? And then we'll probably be part of the mix as to why. We believe that we need to restore the Sacramento Delta health, the health of the Delta, so that the fish population can come back. There are other industries that are dependent on fish, the fish population in the Sacramento Delta. And like I said earlier, it's one economy and it's one California. And you just can't go in there and get what you want and walk away. You gotta go in there and work collectively and fix the problem as a team. And so we believe that we need to bring back the habitat as well. And that was part of the law in 2009, that a plan had to be created to help the environment come back. So $14.5 billion, the ecosystem, it's $19.7 billion. That's what it's going to cost. This is not part of a bond. This is not a bond. You hear a lot about the water bond. This is separate from the water bond. Who's going to pay for it? We're going to pay for the majority of it here in Southern California, the people who take water. Not only us alone, the farmers in the Central Valley. Everybody south is going to take that takes water will pay for this. So when somebody tells you, oh, you're going to get my taxes, I don't want to pay for that, in Northern California, they're not paying for it because we're doing this. It has nothing to do with the general fund of the state, okay? And so we're going to be paying for this on our own. Give you an example of when I say I think it's worth it. This project averaged $580 per capita cost over the 50 years, right? This is a 50-year project. The construction will be done in 10 years, but after that, there's still operation and maintenance and issues. So look at other projects that were built. San Francisco, for $4.6 billion, at 2.6 million population, they built their project called the Hetch Hetchy Pipeline, and that was $1,800, almost $1,700 per person. We're making an investment at $580 per person. Contra Costa Los Vaqueros built a reservoir at $1,000 per person. We're really bringing down the cost because we have numbers, large numbers, right? And so the final point that I want to make with this, we are not moving forward in terms of building a project to create jobs. We are moving forward in terms of building a project to sustain and support and continue a $1 trillion economy. So this is an investment. This is not an expenditure. This is an investment because we don't do this. We're looking at a series of impacts. A lot of jobs can be lost in Southern California. You know, in the Central Valley, in farming communities in the Central Valley, they expect 50% unemployment in some cities. And some of these farmers aren't going to plant certain crops this coming year. That cycle is going to hit our supermarkets pretty soon. You're going to see the price of vegetables and fruit coming out of the Central Valley going up. And so this is critical to stabilizing the economy throughout the state of California. This is the plan, the schedule. The EIS was released in December 2013. The public comment period ends in 2 weeks. And we expect to have a final report released by the end of this year or early next year. ROD stands for Record of Decision. This is the federal government's permission. And the habitat restoration, the tunnel construction, if it all goes well, begins in 2016. This project will create 177,000 construction jobs. One construction job creates 2 other jobs. It's a $5 million in overall benefits. and it avoids $1 million job, 1 million jobs to be lost. I would like to ask, and I don't know if it's too late in the process, that we get a letter of support from your Realtors Association. What we're going to do, what we want to do, what we hope to do, is build a project so we can get back to our water supply that we used to get. We're not asking for more water out of the Sacramento Delta, because we have a contractual agreement as to a certain amount of water that we get every year, and we can't go beyond that. And so we just want to get back to what we were at, because the population growth is continuing in Southern California. And one more point I want to make, and I'll turn it over to questions. The Metropolitan Water District is a wholesaler of water. We are not a planning commission. Planning is done at your city level. Planning is done at your county level. It is not done at the Metropolitan Water District. We were created so that when the community says, I don't have enough water, can you give me some? We respond to that request. We do everything we can to help them conserve water. We do everything we can to help them with their infrastructure, but we do not tell them how to set their policy. Okay? Because I always get that question. Well, why are you? We don't. That's not our mandate. Our mandate is to respond to a demand, and we're doing everything we can. And help me respond to the demand by helping us support this project. So I'll take any questions if you have any. He stood up. You got your hand up, but he stood up. You pull rank on that one.
In Israel, we went to Masada, and I couldn't believe that they had this desert hot and everything else, and when it rained, they had ways where the water would go into this cave, a cistern, saving water.
Yeah.
And so our rainwater that comes off the roof, how can we, all of us, capture that water and use it for our gardens and so on and so forth? Is there anything available for that?
Yeah, you definitely. It's called a gray water system, and the rain harvesting, and so many places do that. The key on that, right, is finding a location at home where you can put a cistern system at a higher elevation. Those things are done more on a local level, but we do have incentive programs at the Metropolitan Water District through our member agencies that we're actually helping people. I think we're very low price rain barrels.
So we can contact you and...
Contact me and I'll give you the phone number to the local agency that will get you one of those.
That means that everybody here could save water.
Yeah, most definitely. Every little drop counts.
It needs to rain first.
Yeah, it needs to rain first. But you know, in reality, a rain barrel does some good. But in terms of the magnitude, it isn't major. But if everybody has one, it does make a difference, right? But more important than the accumulative difference, it's the mentality. That's the key. That's the key, that everybody, because when I was a kid, I brushed my teeth and I let the water flow. Like, I have 6 kids at my house, okay? And somebody did a public records inquiry as to how much water the directors were using in Cucamonga. Well, they tried my house, and it was 80 gallons per person. Ha! Stumped them, right? They didn't want to use that one. Why? Because my kids don't brush their teeth. When my kids brush their teeth, they don't have the water flowing, right? They don't brush their teeth with water flowing. They're all programmed. They brush their teeth, and while they're brushing teeth, the water is turned off. Okay, so